Hey y'all, it's Kristen with the 64 Hexagrams Challenge, and this is the part two of this series that I'm doing. I'm going through 8 hexagrams at a time. This is a personal study for me, and it's something that you can join in, just sharing on social media with using the hashtag 64 hexagrams challenge, and just share how you're studying the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching. I think we've got over 50 people in our study group online now, and we're having lots of really great discussions there. You don't need to join the study group, but if you want to join do a little bit more, I guess, deeper conversations, I'm sharing some things there that I really am not going to be sharing anyplace else. So if you're looking for kind of more depth in terms of discussion and study with the I Ching, that is probably the study space for you. So I'll put a link in terms of how you can get access to it. I'll put that link below. So what I'm doing is just going through, again, this is kind of like my accountability, just going through the hexagrams 9 through 16 now. And what you see here, these are cards that I'm developing as I get a clearer view of the hexagrams. This is a printable deck that I have made. It's also available in the study space. And this is just the trigram breakdown, because I've really been looking through the lens of the trigrams. And for me, this study is kind of looking at the hexagram as a whole. So, and really just blending all of the different pieces to it. I'm also looking at things like seasonal time periods. I'm looking at the binary to decimal number. And I have been seeing some connections, I think, with the binary numbers in terms of numerology. I'm going to wait a little bit longer just to see what bigger patterns emerge. So let's talk about hexagrams 9 and 10. And I am looking at these as pairs as well. The odd and even numbers are paired. So for example, in hexagram 9, it's wind over heaven. If you turn this upside down, you get heaven over lake, which is hexagram 10. So I'm just kind of looking at them in terms of pairs, seeing where there might be patterns there. So hexagram 9, I'm calling small accumulation. It's wind over heaven, and the image can be a wind moving through the clouds, which shows a changeable situation. And so this hexagram can show that since you're in a changeable state, action is not really advised, and it's best to wait. But we've got the potential here for attainment, the potential for success. So this one is small accumulation. And with this one I created, in one book I have, it's called Small Cattle. So again, kind of like the potential for wealth, but not quite yet. And then there's another card, another hexagram that they call Big Cattle. I can't remember which number it is off the top of my head, but in that one, so in this one I just have 2 cows, and then I call it great accumulation. In the other hexagram I have a whole herd of cattle. So that's kind of how I'm looking at these visually. And for me, making the cards helps me to create the visual metaphor for each of these, which just helps me to learn. So the hexagram 10 is treading. So as I said, if we flip this around, we get heaven over lake. And treading is really about moving, walking forward. There's a tiger in here because if you've read the line text, it mentions a tiger. Essentially, this one is about, if we were to look at these trigrams as personality, we have heaven on top, like a person who has a strong external personality. Internally, they're very happy. They have a cheerful disposition. Lake is always about satisfaction and pleasure. So this hexagram is kind of like saying, a powerful person who walks through the world with cheer and joy. And that is going to just kind of naturally bring success. This one is also called sometimes correct conduct. But basically, it's like showing how to respond with pleasure, even if you're in a difficult situation. So even if you tread on the tiger's tail, but it doesn't bite. And that's kind of the metaphor of being, like, say you're around powerful people who might be dominating you, but you still have this cheerful outlook and disposition, and that's going to bring you prosperity and success. And in human design, this one's called the behavior of the self. And it's interesting because the decimal number is 55, which breaks down or reduces to the number 1, which is all about self, if you just from a numerology standpoint. So now I'm going to move heaven here and heaven here so we can look at these two. And so we have hexagram 11, which is earth over heaven, and hexagram 12, which is heaven over earth. Now, I'm going to start actually with this one because this one has been, I guess these two have been confusing to me because I think heaven over earth, well, that's normal. That's what we would expect. So that should be the good hexagram. And yet it's obstruction. And then we have earth over heaven, which is not what the world looks like to us. And then we have harmony. This one's often called peace, but I think a better wording for it is harmony. So I'm going to kind of start over here. So first of all, we have the trigrams have different directions. So heaven moves up, earth moves down. And so we can see there's diverging energy. These trigrams are splitting apart. So usually when that happens, not usually, but sometimes you'll notice the pattern that the hexagram is kind of more negative. It can represent a standstill or something like that. You can also see that what I'm noticing is that a lot of the trigrams also have kind of a weight to them. Heaven is considered heavy, and I'm saying it like a literal weight, like a mountain is heavy. Heaven is heavy, earth is light, so it's also like this heavy energy on top of the earth, and so that can create this dead end, and that's really what I think of with obstruction. Is it's showing you more of a dead end. We're also looking at seasonal. So there's another layer here where when we look at earth, which is pure yin, and heaven pure yang, if we have, like, for example, earth over earth, which we looked at in the part 1, we're looking at the winter solstice, like basically the darkest night of the year. If we have heaven over heaven, we're looking at the summer solstice, the brightest day or the longest day of the year. And so when we have, since the energy is always moving from the first line up, which is at the bottom up, we have 3 yin lines. It's kind of like the yin is encroaching on the yang, which would be suggesting that winter is coming or that the darkness is encroaching. And so that gives us more of a more negative way to look at this. Whereas when we are looking at earth over heaven, now we can see the light is encroaching on the darkness. And so we're moving into the light. And so we get the energy of harmony. Also, we get that because earth moves down, heaven moves up. And so now we've got 2 trigrams that are coming together. And to me, this is kind of like copulation. There's a integration between these 2. So let's put these aside and look at the next 4. I'm going to need my heaven and earth again. So we have fellowship, which is heaven over fire. And then great possession, which is fire over heaven. And then we have humility, which is earth over mountain. And readiness, which is thunder over earth. Okay, so first we're going to look at fellowship, hexagram 13. So we have heaven over fire, and the fire hexagram, I would say fire and lake, the fire trigram, fire and lake trigrams are the most social. So lake is to me always about people like relaxing in the evening, and fire is all about connecting with other people. And so if we have that connection and we have the ability to use heaven to organize the people, then we have fellowship, kind of bringing people together. This ideogram is also supposed to be a sign for mouth and the sign for covering, like to cover something up, which for me is kind of like saying closing your mouth so you can open your ears. And the human design title for this one is the listener. So if we look at, if we take this and we turn it upside down, we get fire over heaven, which is great possession. This one I wasn't ever sure of what the word possession meant. I was like, is somebody being possessed? So for me, part of my study is just understanding some of these words, the etymology of them as well. And so with this one, the ideogram shows a hand holding an offering. And great possession, that the word actually means to have a lot of something. Sometimes this hexagram is translated more as wealth, but the word seems to not necessarily literally be wealth or money, but just to have a lot of something. So you're in great possession of something. And so this one is also creating an image of the sun, the fire, sun shining brightly in the sky, which suggests vast abundance and the end of darkness. When we look at these two, we see earth over mountain and then thunder over earth. Again, if you turn this upside down, you're going to get this pairing here. So when we look at earth over mountain, again, we're going to talk about like the weight of things. So a mountain, we think about a mountain being really heavy, large, powerful. In this case, it's like the mountain is putting itself under the earth. It's humbling itself. It's humbling its greatness and putting itself under the earth, which is why we look at 15 as humility. And then when we look at hexagram 16, this one has been really super confusing for me. Let me move this out. Because the words are all over the place for hexagram 16. It's usually looked at as enthusiasm. I've also seen satisfaction. And I've also seen weariness. And I'm like, well, what does it actually mean? Like, why are there so many different words? So, I think it's important to, figure out what is the etymology, because you might find that there's a different word that resonates a little bit better for you. So there's always a mention of an elephant in the text, in the etymology of the word, but then some people say it's not about an elephant. So I'm just think about like if you were to hear elephants running across the earth, it would sound like thunder over the earth. So I think the trigram thunder can mean the sound of thunder, like just hearing the sound of something that's like that, which is why I used a herd of elephants in mine. But if we look at, I'm reading in the I Ching dictionary with concordance and translation by Daniel Bernardo, and which I really enjoy. It's really simple. You can look up all of the words yourself. So again, this word he's translating it as enthusiasm too, but the next line is, it is favorable to appoint officers and to set the army in motion. So I thought about, if I have to set an army in motion, is that really something I'd be enthusiastic about or satisfied with? So that those words, just those titles don't make sense to me. So reading through Bradford Hatcher's kind of list of etymology words, keywords, I saw readiness, and I think that that is a better title for this, that you're getting ready. You don't want to go to battle. Why would you be enthusiastic about that? But you do want to be ready, and I think the thunder over the earth is that sound, and it's also the sound of an army marching over the earth as well. So that is my study of hexagrams 9 through 16. I'd love to know what you think of these same hexagrams. I'd love to see anything that you'd like to share on your study of the I Ching. Using 64 hexagrams challenge on social media. You can find me on Instagram. I hope you'll also subscribe here so you can continue to watch all of these videos. And if you'd like some deeper discussion of these kind of things, topics, we talk about hexagram pairs. We're looking at the weather in terms of like doing an I Ching reading for the weather and the forecast, and looking at what comes up. So we're just doing a lot of fun things over in the study space. If you'd like to join there, check below so you'll see all the information. Thanks.